Okay, I did it. Yay! While he's gone, I happened to coincidentally this morning, I sent Sam, I don't know if I posted it in GCC, but I don't think I did. It was a video call of Alexander Laszlo and Daniel Christian Wall, which was really good. I'll see if I can't do two things at once as I've demonstrated, but after the call, I'll see if I could share it.
Give us the link and I'll share it for you.
Oh, you know what? Let me, okay, since we're waiting, I will send it to, I'll message it to you, I think, or however. Let me see. Let me find it first. I sent it to Sam.
So I wonder, like, most of us here probably have heard about community of impact before, but like, what are our key questions, or what is like would be most interesting to look into? I'm just sort of throwing out the question.
I find that the most hardest thing I've ever tried to do was to ask two people to make an agreement. And that agreement involved creating a web page with links. So that was difficult. But if anybody agrees to do that and they put their heads down for half an hour, make a nice web page using the tools, fantastic tools that are available, they all link up. You can look at the other friends' web pages and see what links they've got, add them to yours. And the keywords, add the keywords, compassion, unity, global challenge. And the AI the AI will look after the rest. It'll see who's involved, what their interests are, and how they're functioning with each other, whether or not they're making progress on their projects. And then the banner advertising money can help our tree planting crew who work in the background. Volunteers planting seedlings and earning revenue from banner ads. So we can't, it's illegal to pay them a wage unless you're a registered corporation or a charity. If you're just a web group, you're not allowed to do it. It's called Ponzi schemes, or it's called multi-level marketing. So without charging a fee, you can get away with other things and unite a group of people together. Over.
I'm sorry. I just messaged in the barn raising link. I put it there.
Just throw out an idea. Maybe there could be this global fund, the people fund, that could get money from all places, and then that money could go straightly back to individuals who are doing some kind of work for the planet. Like I could imagine something like that. That's kind of what I think about when I hear what Alex talks about. That you could have that beside the web pages so that you could incentivize people to spend their time to, do something for the global, the whole world.
There's an awful lot of money involved in banner advertising on popular websites. So if the group you start gains popularity, you'll end up with lots of websites, and that'll attract interest from the big players. Over.
Okay, Sam is back. Unmute them.
Sam is back.
And he's muted.
So this was rather unsatisfactory. I really apologize for this. I just chucked that whole laptop. I got onto a different laptop. Hopefully this will work better. I feel though that the goodwill towards the presentation may have dissipated.
That's not true.
No, we've kept up the goodwill with positive conversation. So
to me, it felt like a commercial break. It was like, this is a commercial break.
With really
opportunity.
relevant commercials.
Which, by the way, I've been thinking a lot about kindergartners and how there's nap time and snack time. And I'm noticing with myself that I really need that.
Popcorn.
I think in all fairness, this could be a practice week, and then you get all the kinks worn out and give it a formal one next week. Maybe see what you're missing, or maybe you've got it all together, just need technology to help. You are a presenter after all. Evangelist.
Technology issue.
It always hits, doesn't it? Just when you get a chance.
I'm a
I am
technology evangelist at this company, and I've got a 3 or 4 year old laptop. I gotta get this.
You need some better technology, Sam. I mean, you deserve to have really great computers.
Here's a
Because
challenge.
of your love for computer technology, you know, you should have the best equipment.
All right.
And
guys.
bigger prayers. Yeah, Stacy, I don't know why I haven't a landing pad. Oh, there we go. I got a full box now. I'm caged. Good.
Sam,
I don't
can
know if you can see my thing when I talk or not.
Yes, I do see it.
I wanted to say something to Sam about the preparation for a presentation when you know that somebody's going to record it.
As you know, I don't. Yeah, never. Sorry, I don't know what I was about to say. All right, let me try and share my screen this time and see what happens. So again, I'm going to try and run through this fairly quickly because I know that we like seeing each other's faces. But to share the screen, I'm not sure you can until you have a side-by-side mode, and that's usually best with 2 screens. So I'm sure not everybody has that. So I'm going to do this now. Share screen. And I'm going to share my screen number 2. There we go.
Sam, I'm sorry to interrupt you, but your sound is low on my end. Is it just me, or is everybody else experiencing the same thing?
When he moves forward,
Same
it's
thing
better.
here.
It's a little bit low.
Yeah, it's been low here too.
You need to do a sound check for sure.
I've got
Testing,
headphones, so
1, 2, 3.
I'm
Is that
okay.
any better? Testing, testing.
No.
1, 2, 3.
You're way
Yeah,
behind
they're
us.
low.
Still low, yeah.
Yeah, way too low.
To me.
You're going to have to SMR this one.
Is this any better? 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3.
Yeah, that was a little better.
Nah, I'll give
A
you
little bit better, I
25%.
think.
Put it this way, if you project, we can hear you.
I will speak up like this, okay? And I'll try and go through this as quickly as possible. So you can see my screen now, right? It says
Yes.
creating a community of impact. You'll notice the date here was 2013, okay? So what we're trying to say is that even though we've been trying to solve lots of different problems, by almost any metric, the situation is getting worse. If you look at, you know, total real GDP, if you look at amount of domesticated land, if you look at the level of hunger, you look at class disparity, you look at, you know, number of armed conflicts, almost everything says we're still going out of control. And in response to this, we have, of course, on the left here, the recognition there's many challenges, and many well-intentioned people set up projects, almost one-to-one or one-to-many. There's this challenge, 1, 2, 3, you know, organizations fire themselves up to solve that challenge, right? So we have this going on. The problem is, we don't really know whether they're actually working together or they're working at cross purposes, whether the efforts in one project are going to discount the efforts in another project, right? And so even though there's billions and possibly trillions of dollars going to work by well-intentioned people, we still have this problem. We have famine, we have disease, we have, God, you know, class disparity like you wouldn't believe, okay? So what can we do? What can I do as an individual? I can't put billions and trillions to work, right? Where is that point where I can pull on a lever and impact the world? How can we make the difference? How can we be the difference that makes the difference? That's the question we're asking ourselves, okay? So we're saying, suppose we take that previous picture and we try and figure out what we can do with a coordination or a communication among the challenges and the projects. How do we organize ourselves? How do we communicate among ourselves better? How do we resonate? How do we amplify? How do we cohere? How do we support all of that together so that we can have the maximum impact on the world? Impact, hopefully, meaning beneficial impact. So what we're trying to figure out is, can we apply our values? Can we extract insights? Can we come up with principles? Can we create a culture? Can we collaborate and understand how to best collaborate so that we can actually then practice and build tools so that these efforts are not at cross purposes? That's really the question at hand, okay? So we're trying to figure out then, how do we focus on systems and not the symptoms? All the symptoms are clear, but what's underneath them, the dynamics of those systems, the flows, the energies, the influences, the monies, the interests, the intentions behind them. How do we understand that? Okay. And if we can understand that, then we can actually understand that the symptoms are just derived from the systems, and now try and focus on making changes in those systems. This is not a very complicated idea, but now we're trying to really understand many, many interconnected systems. And this is systemic thinking to me, okay? So how do we do it in such a way that not only do we recognize the challenges here on the left, that there are projects and actions we need to take coming out of them, but we do it in a systemic thinking way. This is the systemic innovation foundation at the bottom there, and yet guided by values, by what we want to be as humans, the wholeness idea, the health idea, the resiliency idea, the thriving idea, the sustainability idea. And in it, we have to see our own place as individuals. We have to see our connected groups and communities as we, and then we have to understand that the system is the world that we live on. And that's the three-part view that's actually part of my personal logo, okay? Now, clearly we're standing on the shoulders of giants. These are not innovative thoughts on our own. You know, for me, Engelbart, Jansch, Lao Tzu, Guan Yin, you know, those are huge influences. For the rest of us, you know, Eleanor Ostrom, I forget what her last name is, Watami Matai, sorry, I'm mangling her first name. Anyway, Nobel Prize winner out of Africa. Not to mention Buckminster Fuller, you know. There are pieces of their ideas interspersed throughout all of this. If we're able to come up with those insights and start practicing them, and if we're able to establish a community that is willing to work together in this way, then maybe we can have more impact, okay? That's what we're calling the community of impact. We want to bootstrap the theory, the practice, and ethos of collaborative systemic innovation for the well-being of everyone, of all. So this has implications for the world, implications for each of us as individuals, and then those that choose to clump together in communities and teams. The ideas include, and this unfortunately, just for completeness, the world impacts are through autopoiesis, intentional systemic renewal, continual co-creation, planning and design, and evolving our collaboration DNA. Where it impacts us as individuals is, how do I learn how to dialogue? How do I keep my tenacity and keep reaching for truth? How do I have the courage to actually attain awareness? Always be striving for awareness. How do I present myself to every situation so that I can have maximum positive benefit and impact? How do I put my values forth so that they coexist with others? How can I operate from principles rather than just simply from need or from wants or from, you know, desires? Where we is impacted is we can actually learn how to improve as groups, and improving ourselves, improving the improvers, having a maximum kind of compounding interest effect. Do it with transparency. Do it by federating all of our efforts, all our different efforts that are not centrally organized. We want open participation. Everybody should be able to participate. We want to understand and develop and practice collective intelligence, and thereby build this community of impact. By wholeness, and this really deserves a different graphic, okay, is we want to understand how our relationships are characterized. We want to improve the quality of those relationships. We want to understand what home means. So everyone has a sanctuary where there's trust among us, not distrust, where we can co-create together, okay? And yet, in any society, we have to be able to deal with the exception conditions. We have to deal with the pathological, the sociopathic. So how do we put in place checks and balances that are actually designed and will operate for the maximum health, good, benefit of most people? How do we keep those cancerous, malevolent cells within an organism from killing the organism? Okay. And do it so that everybody feels fulfilled, everybody is co-creating together, everybody is happy, ideally, everybody is thriving, but at least we're coexisting, okay? At least that. Okay. So one more word about this. The simple framework here is to come up with some principles that we each individually hopefully opt into. That these principles will guide our behavior, our interaction with others, so that we can minimize, this is one of my current themes, the need for external laws, the laws that govern our interactions. If I can present myself to an interaction with each of you, or any of you, or others, in the best way possible, with generosity, with curiosity, with judgment, with flexibility, with tolerance, with the intent to co-create, then ideally we can figure something out if there's a disagreement or if there's a clash of any sort, okay? I can understand you, you can understand me, we can work around it, we can co-create, and ideally serve it as examples for how we work through some of this stuff. Disagreement is natural. It's going to happen every single time because we have different language, different backgrounds, different contexts, different values. It's natural to understand that we're going to have some misunderstanding. Sorry, redundant terminology. But the point is, how do we create this framework so that we have the simplest possible framework of principles and practice that then allow each of us to have personal agency? We take responsibility. Not the laws, not the police, not the government, okay? So here, let's say these are the foundations, and this is written up in a separate one-pager, which I think each of you has already seen, okay? Is that each of us, if we want to opt in to these practices, my first request is decide what you think good is. What is good for you? What does good mean for you as an individual? That's not what this page says. Yeah. But in addition to that, be accountable to yourself for operating your life, for living your life in alignment with what that good means. That's this conscious action part, okay? Get your credo, get your values clear, make them transparent. Be committed to it, be accountable to yourself, and oh, by the way, you're not going to see certain things in yourself. I'm not going to see certain things in myself, so that's why I need at least 2 other people to help me be accountable to myself. I want 2 people that know me well enough, that love me well enough to say, no, Sam, come on, you're just fooling yourself. You're just deluding yourself. Look at it this way. And really kind of turn my perspective around, so that somebody could say, did you really mean to do that? Was that really in alignment with your values and your stated intent of what good was? Those are the peers. And this is also similar to Alex's idea, but this is just a way of recognizing that I cannot see myself the way other people can. I cannot be accountable to myself the way other mirrors can, to say, really look at your behavior, add this perspective, add that perspective, and do this on a regular basis. If you're doing this on a regular basis, hopefully you're learning. And as you learn, you adjust, you shift course. Good might have meant go off in that direction 2 years ago. Now possibly means shift a little bit. And maybe over time it shifts a little bit more. So your notion of what is good and how you show up in the world is always learning by this self-examination, this self-reflection, this peer perspective process, peer retrospective process. If I do this, and if I find other people who are willing to do this, those are the people I want to work with. Because those are people who have a notion of what good is. They hold themselves accountable. They are not just deluding themselves. And they also want to find other people who want to behave this way. This is my notion of a community of impact. That you show up and you opt into these practices, you opt into these notions, and you try and connect with other people who do that as well. Now, if I find other people like that, I think we can really do wonders. My belief is that somewhere between 3,000 such people and 30,000 such people is enough to really significantly shift the planet. And that's what I'm looking for, is 3,000 to 30,000 people that are willing to do this. These slides are not perfect. I really understand how bad these slides are now, coming back 7 years later, okay? One other thing I wanted to introduce is that I've been really focused around this notion of agreements. Focus is necessary before you can get to agreements. And we just recently talked about focus for the last 3 or 4 or 5 months in barn raising. So I think there's some generally accepted notion of the value of focus. But to me, focus is an enabler for other things. So way back in 2013, we thought that the most atomic agreement you could make with someone else is this thing I'm calling this communication to and a commitment. So it's a communication and commitment to collaborate, the CCC, okay? Which says, I think I can do this. I believe you can do that. Here's how I think we can actually add to each other, how I can help you, how you can help me. This is an invitation to a collaboration. And that's, if we go into detail, that's what the CCC is, okay? So I'm gonna stop with just about 1 more minute of this, okay? And that is that if I can find such people that want to be this transparent about their intention for good, this transparent about their wanting to be accountable to themselves and to their peers, and wanting to connect with others, I really, 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 really want to be part of that community. That's the community I'm looking for. And that's the community I'm hoping will coalesce, manifest, and start having impact in the world. So there's a few other slides here that I did skip. I'm going to stop now because I really appreciate your attention and your generosity letting me say these things and present these ideas again. I clearly have some very specific ideas how to improve these slides now. But those are the ideas I want to get forth, okay? The link that I'm going to include in the transcript a few minutes from now, once I find it, I believe it's actually communityofimpact.info, okay? Is the one pager. Actually, Colin could probably let me know what that is because I'm sure it's on his map. I believe it's communityofimpact.info, which has a one pager that basically says what I've just been saying for the last 3 or 4 minutes. And that is what I would like to work towards. And this is essentially the derivative of Doug Engelbart's human systems evolution idea, which I've embraced and extended in this way. I'm just, taking it a very personal direction, and this is my current expression of it. Over. Thank you.
Awesome. I'm glad you made me moderator because I want to go first. So I think Wednesday or Thursday, T sent me an interview that I did with you about 18 months ago, back when we were part of Practical Knowledge Ecology. And I rewatched it where you talked about community of impact. You just mentioned it. I really didn't know what it was until now. This morning, and then some other things have happened. This morning, first I want to you mentioned 3,000, 30,000. And then you also mentioned CCC. So for me, I'm focused on the 3 part of it. So right now, I have a project and I have 3 people, and what it is, I texted one of them this morning after I had watched a video with Alexander Laszlo and Christian Daniel Wall, which I put in Messenger, and Alex said he would put it in the chat. And I just lost the part I wanted to read to you, but I texted one of my 3 telling him I finally have the language for what I'm trying to do, which is, I can't find it, I had it queued on my phone, but it was, it's a structural, it's a next level structural infrastructure to do exactly what you're talking about, but co-creating it. And so I'm really excited that this is happening. I'll leave it there. I'll let
A little
Glenn.
bit more. Thanks, Stace.
Yeah, I mean, I've been fortunate enough to be able to, be part of these conversations for quite a while, and also we went through the 10 sessions which Sam had in the deep dive, and then I watched a little on the Super Symmetry blog, and I've seen some of these slides, so I think I have some understanding of what this idea is about, and what I see is one version, pretty well thought out version of a kind of evolutionary social system for the formulation struck me. What Sam went through was collaborative systemic innovation for the benefit of all. And the system is like lots of different people and different parts interacting together according to a certain pattern, and that's a movement pattern because we're always in movement. So we could say that a system is a movement pattern. And there's the coexistence, there's the reality we're all living in the same world. We have to relate to one another one way or another. And then this system or this idea of a community of impact comes out of the mind. Here it's Sam's version of it, which seems to me compatible with Alex's idea, with my idea, with probably everyone's idea here. You can see sort of an idea of a certain kind of a social structure which is love-based, yes, focuses on people's best sides, yes. That can be seen in Sam's idea of what is good for you. You want to inspire the best out of people, and thinking systemically, yes, and learning. So that's the perspectives, that's the feedback mechanism, because as you mentioned, we can see things about you, you can't see yourself, you can see things about me, I can't see myself. So if we have a good interaction, we can get high quality feedback in various directions. So it seems that the system's purpose is a kind of evolution of our understanding, evolution of our understanding of ourselves, but also an evolution of our knowledge, and including our best visions, our best ideas, our dreams, our wishes. And this connects beautifully with the idea of profiles, which, many of us have been very interested in, which I also think is one of the emergent ideas in the field, the idea of the appreciative profiles, the kind of around each person in the web, it's like a cloud of certain kinds of information, which is the best gifts of that person and wishes and dreams, etc. That's also very compatible with this model. So I think a question that I wanted to ask you was, don't you feel that in a way, what you're describing here is already happening in many different places to some degree, and then perhaps all these systems have a potential of really developing way further and really, working much better, which is obviously what we all wish for. So that, you have lots of systems which strive towards this. I mean, even in our political systems, there's this idea that we can continuously learn and improve, for example. So, democracy, some of the basic foundations seems to have some of the same principles, but it feels like you're also sort of taking Doug Engelbart's point of view and trying to see how could we put this together now with the present resources, because now we have the internet, right? Now we have this enormous amount of data. So how could we maybe take the best from the traditions in the past and put together in new ways and use your best ideas with all the other best ideas and put it together? Yeah, that's basically what I was thinking.
I'll say in part, I would agree with you. And that's the external part. There's a lot of action. There's a lot of people doing things. And that was a point that I made very early in this discussion. What I can't yet see, and I can't confirm, is how much is happening inside people. I would love for someone, possibly, other than Bernie, to come up and say, this is what I think good means. Maybe AOC, okay? But I'd love to see anyone in politics come up and actually say, this is what good means for me, and this is what I'm working for. We've heard it from Bernie for 40 years. But if you take a look at the actions taken by certain political parties, they seem to directly and in high magnitude work against public good. And they probably have some notion of what good means to them. But I don't know what it is.
Alex?
Am I on the air?
Yes.
I was going to talk about the groups that function in the political arena have an influence there. It's they sort of brush social media aside to a large extent, thinking that it's irrelevant, which is a mistake in my opinion, because it blossoms into sprouts for lots of other groups. Contacts found and made on social media. So that's where the local perspective, the local power to affect local politics decisions comes in. With the global network of triads, it could work, but the more focus there is on localization of your friends in the triads, the better it will function as a change maker organisation that has more effect in the local politics. They worry when there's a tight election coming up. They get nervous and they start counting how many people are in the green groups, in case they think that's going to sway the result. That many people voting for the reef, voting for the trees, voting for the planet, and voting for an end to this crazy unrest about racism and immigration and gender issues. It's all a distraction from the real issues which are facing us. The important thing is the crisis facing the oceans caused by plastics and global warming. Governments and the big mainstream media are trying to ignore it too, because their money, a lot of their money comes from the huge corporations that are causing the damage. Over.
So Tees just put in the chat, Michael Josefowicz's PAR, participatory action research, and he's actually one of the three in my group for the project that I mentioned. And I wanted to bring it back to this because I've been, coming here like for 2 years and I always wanted to participate in somebody else's project. This is the first time I'm coming here and I have mine. And so what I would ask for the first triangle group that I think would be helpful, I would love it if Sam and Colin would work with me to use Jerry's brain to just do the first step so that I can share who are you pointing to, Tees? Unmute and say it because I don't know what you mean.
Joel has his hand up, maybe. I don't know.
Okay, but this is my project, so I
Yeah.
want to be able to choose the working group of 3 for this specific task. And that I would pick Colin and Sam for that. I mean, people can look on, like maybe we could do it in a fishbowl. I definitely want to record it because that's part of the PAR that Michael Josefowitz is working on. I'm complete.
So I think Tees was saying Joel had his finger up, wanting to speak for a while.
Oh, I'm sorry, I misunderstood.
You're muted, Joel.
Is that a never mind?
Let me add one more thought, which I didn't cover in the presentation, and that is this idea that since I feel that as an individual, I don't have the resources and the influence, perhaps even the assets, to go after the magnitude of projects like, scarcity of clean water or food distribution or any of those things. The point is, how do we think at a level where we can ideally improve what everyone else is doing and what I might therefore be able to do at the specific problem level. So that was why I wanted to go to a meta consideration. How do we make the change that makes a difference? I know a lot of people ask this. This is just, a very personal way to answer that question, is to really look at what the internal processes are, the internal values, the internal commitment, the internal accountability. And I know some people get triggered by this word accountability and commitment. I recognize that, okay? But I'm choosing to use those words because people understand what they mean. Is that if you're actually clear with your intention, clear with your accountability, clear with your execution, and your intent to learn, that I think can be brought to almost any situation. In any problem or any project or any team I'm working on, those are the kind of people I want to work with. That's my point.
And I think that the level of refinement of those questions as well, because an iterative process sometimes needed for more complicated things. Rapid development is a feature-based type development where you get feedback and it's not totally up for grabs, but you never know what that interaction with the client is going to do to change, as even the client sometimes doesn't know exactly what they're asking for. Other times the confines are well defined and you know what you have to do. And therefore you want to know people who actually know the ins and outs of that particular task. Whereas if you're more in a designing mode, and this I would think is in one of those wicked problem modes where there's going to be quite a lot of iteration and a lot of variability. Hopefully some good serendipity. And I see Joel has a finger up, or go ahead.
One of the major problems we have in society is trust of authority. But that authority is chosen authority. It's the authority that the majority have chosen time after time, after time, after time, after time. Even when the obvious cycle of bouncing between the left and the right has been there for decades, we still bounce between the left and the right because of how it works. It is always the emotional arguments, the cognitive distortion of the pictures of reality. We keep saying give people the choices, but when we look at all the times people have been given choices, they've made the wrong ones because one group or another has chosen to go down the line of using emotional arguments or ideological arguments, at no time ever getting down to the fact of how existence works. If you don't feed people or ensure that people have access to resources to survive, they will steal them. They don't consider your morals to be moral when they look at you and go, you've stolen all of the planet from us. Your society is a thief in our eyes. So why should we consider your idea of a rule of not stealing from you when in our eyes you have already stolen from us? It ends up being a bit of a contradiction when America effectively is a stolen country and they still occasionally like to steal the land from the Native Americans and choose when a pipeline's going through it. That's still stealing. And yet we still go, America is still one of the first people, it's our land, it's our nation, it's this, it's that. Well, really? You keep telling people people aren't allowed to steal from you, but you still go around the world stealing from the people of all the other cultures. I mean, we pretend that the civilizations are the good guys and normal society are the good guys. But if we look at the reality of history, normal society are the people who've stood there and gone, yes, that's okay. We can go into that country, start a war and take their resources. This is a perfectly good idea and it's acceptable to us. We know this because they're the ones that go to the war. A lot of times this is led by manipulation of businesses and people who have controlled that. But at the same time, it is very open at times that we go into another country with our military to get access to resources and to corrupt another nation's way of being. And there's a good chunk of the population that accept that as being the way it is. So there's times when we have to realize that what everyone considers to be normal at times isn't. Some of the people I look at in the very top or in different pockets of society on the outer edges call themselves normal because that's what their perception of circle is. But if you actually look at where their entire group circle is, they're actually quite far out of the normal behaviors. So we need to recognize what the functional normal of our species is, not what people ideologically consider normal. I'm done.
Not to belittle what Joel has said, I would just like to put in a small codicil. The rules governing war over the past couple of 100 years have changed considerably from what they were of pillage and rape to one of reparation. That was the condition at the end of World War II, and the Geneva Convention made a lot of changes which were implemented for the betterment of the whole of the planet, notwithstanding what the two Bushes and Obama did afterwards and what's currently happening. I would cite again what Joel said, the left-right veering, the zigzag of civilization from one to the other. Yes, we have gone as far as probably we can go in the wrong direction of greed, and we are about to bounce back from that. It may not happen in this decade, the coming decade. It may happen in the coming decade. I do hope so. It has taken us approximately, 60 years, maybe less than that. Reagan seems to come to mind. Maybe it was before that. The idea would have been eschewed much before that, and he put it into practice with the opposite number in the UK, Maggie Thatcher, and the rest of the planet followed. And it has reached pandemic levels of greed all over the world, and it's horrendously bad. So it has to bounce back. Therefore, I think that the feasibility of the plans that are being put forward are much increased. The systems change has to happen. And the systems changes, I'm pretty sure, with the current education system and the aid of the social media, would enhance the speed and the rate and the accuracy of that. So I'm not just quietly optimistic. I think I'm ecstatically optimistic. I would shout it out. It can happen in a decade or two, provided there's obviously concerted effort. I think that's the word, effort, concerted, 2 words. I'm complete.
Can I go? This
No, you stay.
conversation. I'll stay here, but I'll talk to you about this synergy, this synergy, or this focusing of lots of groups on the same issue is resulting in some kind of co-emergence. What I need to do is focus on engaging with the different various groups, seeing where these convergences meet, and join the dots, sort of thing. That's where people like Colin come in with mapping, because they make very good visual representations, and with technology helping us turn those visual representations into clickable links, we get very quickly, very deeply, and very quickly to the results we're looking for. And we're following a path. We can go on the game, go on the trek, the adventure through Colin's map. So that's Colin's map, though. It's a shame we can't all have one. We can't all afford the software. And there's interesting developments happening in other areas too. Live Zoom sessions are recorded and the AI is reading the transcripts, hopefully, because that helps us focus as well. I mean, the simple fact is that the issues are not that complicated. And what's needed is a change in legislation to move us in a different direction. That comes about after people power gets its act together. So hopefully we're doing that over.
Glenn?
Yes. What if? So I wanted to do a what if contribution. I will have to go in not too long. But I mean, for me, the one sort of cornerstone which I can connect all of this to is this idea of patterns of movement in space, behaviors, which are our patterns of movement in space, processes on the earth, humans moving on the lands, the geometry that we put out in space. Remember Joel said something about that 2 weeks ago. So that would be the point of start. So what if we take the best ideas that people have developed, which according to them are their best ideas for global futures, where every person wins, where every person gets a good deal. And that is pretty easy to define. It simply would be a scenario where with self-reporting, 100% of all populations in a given area, potentially 100% of all people on the whole planet, would personally say, yes, I'm happy with this arrangement, at least relatively happy. Yes, this is going quite well. What if there's a scale from, let's say, 1 to 100, every person could go into, and they could choose a number, they choose the number, nobody can judge them for choosing their number, and above a certain level, they're relatively happy. They have the basics taken care of. They have access to the internet. They have good food. They have a place to sleep. They have a social network. They have the basics. They have plenty of opportunity. Let's say we have a system where all people in the world can give this kind of feedback. Then we can try experiments. And let's say that a certain given day, sometime in the future, it just happens to happen that 100% of people in the world say that they're quite happy now. And that will be a good day. It will be quite a good day. For some reason or other, who knows why it's a good day, who knows what's going to happen on that day. But the point is that there is a structure which is ready to capture that one good day, where for whatever reason, people are pretty happy. Maybe it's even a week. And what actually happens during that week? That seems to me like an infrastructure for a science of the good life, which should be quite possible to create. So what if we created that infrastructure and then we started doing it and started doing it on a small scale and then ripple out from there? Yes.
Jasmine?
Over.
I'm sorry.
I'll keep this very short. I was so mindful of the time, 6 minutes to the top of the hour. If Glenn is putting forward the bare minimum universal standard, what I would call the contentment level, he calls it the happy level. I'm not sure what happy means, but if people are fairly content all over the globe, in other words, the basics are met, and the basic of civilization and communication, yeah, that to me is probably a lower standard to start with, but it's a much more achievable standard, and it gives people more disposable time and possibly income to come on board to make the situation even better. That seems to be an excellent starting point. And I'm all for that too, maybe even 3. I'm complete.
Sounds a lot like the type of communities I've been thinking about and planning for a long time. But I kind of look at the model that the Druids took, because it took 25 years to become a Druid, and the whole point of it taking that long is for you to embody the knowledge and prove to your kind of community that you are that kind of trusted knowledge person to go to. There's a lot of things, even with the internet. The internet's a beautiful tool, but it's not embodied knowledge. Embodied knowledge completely changes how you see the world. you recognize things around you as being problems when you have certain types of knowledge. If you're a medical professional or anyone who's studied vast amounts about the body, you can see different health concerns in that person just by seeing them on the street. My chiropractor friend tells me he can work out where people have injuries, what types of sports they do, how they generally live their life, just by watching them walk. So there will always be a level of embodied knowledge. And the kind of people who do that lifestyle are a small proportion of the population, because it truly means dedication to that body of knowledge and a true, almost obsessive desire to obtain that knowledge and know and understand it within yourself. But that, as I've said many times, that whole act of doing that is changing your biology. So whatever you do to be that knowledge will change you. So the druids used to work in the sense of they didn't really expand. They expanded by taking outsiders in, and they kind of restricted their size based upon the communities they were working with. And they'd take people in from those communities and teach them, and then send them back to their own communities. That's how they used to educate the kings. It would be the druids that would educate the king in the area, and then the king would go back to their population to lead them. But the druids would still remain that kind of embodied knowledge, kind of separate from the society or the main sort of normal culture as it was, but in such a way that it created a level of respect, so that they recognized when, I mean, there's stories of clans having battles and druids being able to walk into the middle of the battle and go, "Oi, no, not here, go over there," because the druids knew something about the land and the people were destroying that something. So in our communities, or at least in the community I was kind of thinking up, it was to support those two different lifestyles. The one where you just want to have the minimal base living, you do your kind of work, you've got your resources, and you just kind of work within the communities, travel around those different communities, and that's your life. You can live peacefully and fulfill whatever needs to, you know, get your resources, sustain that community that's bringing you resources. But then there'd also be people who spend their life working for that community, rather than say only 2, 3, maybe 4 days. They would be spending every day doing knowledge, doing meditation, watching and observing the communities. It would be their literal duty to understand how the community is working for the benefit of the community in a way that the community can recognize will always be beneficial to them. Those kind of people, when we look at authority in our culture, it's the greed that makes the authority lose its way. You look at Buddhism, for example, and they don't have that because they separate themselves from the money. Even when they use money, there's this whole system set up in place to decide what they can and can't buy, etc.
Sorry, did you say, I'm sorry, did you say grief that gets in the way? Grief, G-R-E?
Greed.
Oh, greed. Okay, thank you. Sorry about that.
So it's when the authority starts having too big an ego. But what I'm trying to say is the people who study to be the knowledge need to understand that not ego position, that they aren't the knowledge, they are just the embodiment of it. They're only there as a guide or a teacher. You need people that can go onto a farm and just instantly recognize a problem without having to spend hours looking it up. And this is part of our problem, where we keep saying literature's the knowledge. We're not embodying that knowledge. That knowledge is something that you should look at the world and click. You should have a whole stream of knowledge come up about that thing in front of you that tells you that thing's going to be a problem. We need to work on that thing to guide that over there. And that's all very science-based. That isn't emotion-based. We need these things. we need these things to work well. This is the science we know. This is what we have to do to make this work properly. So that the kind of, there'd be a level of the science telling the community how to develop the main body of like the structures and the farms and the various small communities that are maybe like artisan communities. But beyond that point, it would always be to the community, the more organic side of the community going, okay, well, we want to change to being like this at the moment, and we need these tools to do that kind of work because this kind of work's no longer working and more of that work's coming up. So you need that more organic side to the community where they are deciding what works needs to be done, whilst the more science side is saying, well, if that's what you want to do and that's how you want to be, these are the things you have to do to get there. And it's not really our choice because this is the way the sort of fabric works. This is what we're part of. So if you want to get from A to B or A to C, there's the path of B to get there. And that's ultimately not our choice or desire. It's just science.
Alex?
There's an issue with the amount of stuff we collaborate with and share with our friends. It's as if the greed in the world that's eating away at all the resources has no stop button. And if we can't collaborate to help stop it, then nothing will. It will go extinct. We'll be a species that went over the edge because of the climate impacts. So when a collaboration like this is emerging online, it's an initiative. If you can convince people to share these links with each other in a way that increases our visibility, strengthens our unity, and gives us more power to affect the change that we know that 80% of the population want. Cleaner vegetables, less chemicals in the soil, and all that stuff, all that nice environmentally cool, balanced sociology. Without the money laundering in the political lobbying, we should restrict lobbying money to environment groups, to community groups only that have no connection with the vast conglomerate of corporate interests in the arms industry and the mining industry and the global pharmaceutical farming in agriculture and pesticides, killing bees, plastic killing whales. The people don't have power. The governments have taken control and they're all corporations. The only way we can stop them is by uniting online with the internet, the power of web pages, and bringing our links together to help with the effort, the analytics and the community of impact. Over.
I really liked, oh, sorry, I've said quite enough for one day, all your son.
No, please go ahead. I just want to ask you a question after you.
I couldn't hear that.
I just want to ask a simple question, but I'll go after you.
Yeah, go ahead, Jaswinder.
Okay, just to pick up on Alex's point of the lobbying and the vast amounts of monies involved in the lobbying system and how to divert that. That's when my ears really pricked up at that point. It's a very good point of the greed that's involved in governments. And then he deviated onto some other items and took it somewhere else instead of staying with that and how that could be fixed. If that could be fixed, basically what you're saying is what we need people in government, regardless of whatever system is put in place or is brought about, the people who are going to be sitting in the what is currently the cabinet, be it the war cabinet, the peace cabinet, the agricultural cabinet, the decision makers, they have to be totally honest, above reproach honesty. And I would go so far as to say, this is my personal opinion, if you can have people who are willing to do that work for basically nothing except their upkeep, then those are the people we need, not the ones who are going into government to milk the system. I'm complete.
When they find out we're discussing this, they'll shut us down.
Well, Alex, I'm 67 years old. I've had a good, fruitful life. If they want to come and shoot me, I'll give them the 20 cents for the bullet.
They haven't shut us down already. We are having this conversation, so there is some space.
See, much as I like your ideals, Jaswinder, can we create a society where we don't require such perfect people? Can we deal with people in all of their imperfections and yet still have a working society? I think we in the United States are very far from having those good people in government. We totally rejected Bernie, who I consider one of them. Everybody else in government is basically in there just to consolidate their power and to hang on to power. So it would be nice to get that philosopher king or a whole set of them, but I haven't even seen one. Anyway, the question I was going to ask is, a valid criticism of the COI ideas is, so how come you guys haven't gotten further in 7 years? I think it's very difficult for people to actually state what's good for them, state that they want to be accountable to themselves, find two such people who are willing to be peers, to do these regular peer perspectives, and to be that transparent about it. To me, this could be asking too much. I would like to find people that do this, but I haven't found very many people who are willing to do this. I found people who will do this once or twice, but not as a regular matter of course. That's my question. Am I asking too much? Over.
No, I don't think you're asking too much. So Tis had mentioned Michael Josefowitz, I was just trying to look it up. I put it in the chat. It's the Pneumatic Institute. What did I write? Whatever I wrote, read it. Participatory Action Research, which I said that's something that now I'm working, we're working together. And during this call, I already reached out to Colin, who already told me he's going to help me map the start of what I think will be that infrastructure to bring together all the things that I keep hearing in all these calls. For 2 years, I've been listening to what the needs of everybody is. And I think I have a good idea of things that work and things that don't. And the one thing that I think I do a little bit differently is I allow for 2 different tracks. And by having 2 different tracks, a lot of those roadblocks are taken out of the way. But that's just a part of it. But I don't think you're asking too much is the answer to your question.
Yeah, I want to second that. I don't think this is asking too much. I think many people want to do this, but for whatever reasons, they find themselves in situations where maybe they don't feel they have time, or they don't know who, or maybe a little overwhelmed by many things happening. But I really feel it's a strong wish on quite a lot of people to have a community where you can get real feedback and you can learn together, and you can maybe also create something together which over time could be of global benefit. So the wish is there, but I mean we don't have, we probably shouldn't underestimate how much information overload, tensions, distractions, commitments in all directions. I think we often underestimate just how much that, puts us off track. And, many of the people out there who we think are idiots or evil or whatever, because we see a part of their manifestations, those people are complex. They have other sides that we don't see, and at other moments, totally different sides of their nature appears. Like for example, I'm a member of this Facebook group. I mean, I'm not like Stacy. I'm not like really active on Facebook, but every now and then I'll participate. And in this group, there's so much of what I consider bullshit on sort of negative things, and it's sort of not going anywhere. And you get this impression, yeah, everyone in there is just trolls. It's just propaganda. It's just stupid. But then, okay, I got an inspiration one day. I wrote a post. It even made a pretty strong claim that Donald Trump should get fired now because he just is bad for America right now. But I really tried to, be serious and not attack anybody, but also kind of bring in a little bit of inspiration. And then suddenly I experience a lot of people come back with surprisingly insightful things, because I kind of invite everyone to just share their best insights at some point. And so, people are complex, I guess. I mean, they're just, and we have, better angels of our nature. So if it seems to me that the problem today is we don't have the contexts that really inspire our best natures. And if we could create new contexts which could really inspire people to bring their best ideas and their best visions, even a Facebook group where people actually ask, what do you want? What future would you like to see? That's the thing. In the Facebook group, which has all the tribalism, all the hate, they don't even begin that conversation. It's always talking about the wrong things those people did, the dangers. It's this thing where we never even get to the question of, what do we really want? What's your best ideas? And so it seems that many of the communication contexts are kind of they're dysfunctional. It's certain communication contexts where people just are caught in some kind of a game where the best angels of our nature isn't coming through, and we don't even speak about what really matters. But then there's other contexts which occasionally happen, and I think these conversations are examples of that, where we can invite better insights and clearer thinking and more genuine sharing. And then you suddenly realize, hey, everybody in the room here understands a lot. Everyone here is a pretty brilliant person. Like all of you, from what I've understood so far, you're brilliant people, and deep insights, and beautiful ideas, and beautiful personality traits, and that comes through in this context. But most contexts, that doesn't come through. So I think we got to create context where people can shine. I think it's basically my point here.
Kayla?
So I have to go. So I wanted to check out and just let everyone know that I really appreciated this. Sam, I really appreciated your presentation. I'd love to get a copy of it, just to look at it a lot more. And count me in if you haven't already done so. I think that people speak often very one-dimensionally, and it's just something that's happened from, you know, decades, thousands of years ago. But we're to a point now where we're elevating, and people are starting to realize that it's not always cause and effect. It's not about survival. You know, a lot of this global awareness that we're feeling is starting to supersede greed, and you know, it's kind of nice. And I see everybody here trying to act on it in their own way, and that's the beauty of it all. Is you know, to the point where that presentation, it's kind of, to me, it's three-dimensional. And I think this world has a potential for multidimensional. So anyway, thank you so much. And hopefully I'll see you guys tomorrow. Gotta go to Costco. So have a good one, everybody.
Yeah, hope you feel better, Kayla.
Thank you.
Yeah, I'll also leave. So thanks everyone. Really enjoyed it today.
Thanks for listening. Thanks for considering. Thanks for feedback.
So bye. Well, it's difficult to go to the community of impact. I think it's a learning situation because you ask a lot, Sam. So it's really step by step. And for me, it's always too fast. I think because I'm not native in English. So there's so much details, and you ask a lot for the people that you want to work with. So maybe John Paul Close gets up to the values that you ask for people that you want to work with. Well, if I see Tang in Taiwan and he organizes consensus making with the software Paul is, then it's not about asking people to have a high moral standard in the first place. Getting just people saying what is their opinion, and not reacting on other people's opinion is not given in the software. So it prevents people fighting each other, and it only gets voting for opinions that are favored. That's the system. So that's not what you want. I mean, it's too high level. So if you have a lower level, so if you look at, if you know information, if you know the more science, you can go to the lowest level, and then you can build up. But it's not about, so in communication, in sign making, you can go to the lower level, or say the 0 and the 1. That's the basics, and then you get up. But if you go to people in between, really, you really need to teach the people to get into the system that is your ideal. But what happened in Taiwan was the occupation of the parliament. I was forgotten about it, but I found it back, and then I found the whole story that Tang came in, he organized the demands, and then then he was asked by the government, "Oh, please come and join us. You're able to get you're able to channel the demands of the people. We need you to be in the government." So that's something different. Yeah. Okay, Stacy, that's enough for me. But I'm leaving out.
We might want to wait 1 minute because I just want to address something you just said. One of the reasons that in this action project that I'm doing, I'm using 3 people. Some of it addresses what you're saying about things going too fast, because if people have the ability to watch the team of 3, it's an opportunity for them to learn as the other people are working and watching. And so you're addressing the learner, but you're also addressing the people that are doing the action, so it doesn't slow up the action. The other thing it accomplishes is it builds and strengthens bonds between people. So that's why, that's why I said, Colin, would you do this with me? I specifically wanted him because I like him, I trust him, and if I'm going to work with somebody, I want to work with people that I like, and he has the skill that I need, and it's something that addresses his interests. So I just wanted to say that for anybody who wants to understand what's in my brain.
Can I just ask something on that?
Yes.
What if the person who has the knowledge you need is someone you don't like?
Well, that's a good question.
Diplomacy is required there.
I think he wanted to know from me. You want me to answer that?
No, it's just, if we're always going for people we like, in certain situations, there's going to be times we need to work with people we don't like. So I just think it's something we have to keep in mind, that sometimes the person we need is someone we don't actually like on a personal level, but we'll have to get along on a more existential professional level for our species.
Right. So my answer to that would be maybe. We'll find out. That's the point of the action project, the research action project. Action research project.
The alternative reality project.
No, it's reality.
AR are the two best initials in the world to have, because it's augmented reality and artificial reality, artificial realism, and artistic relational databases. Augmented reality. Assistable requirements. I'll shut up now.
Bye. Yeah, actually, I should probably go too. I'm going to leave it on like I always do, because by the time I get out of the shower, you might still be here.
I'm checking out now because I'm sleepy. Over.
Sleep well.
Hello, Joel. Hello, Colin.
Hi, Jazz.
Just the three of us.
On money, penny, hon.
Yep. What's this thing you sent me about having a chat system on Zoom? Are you a premier member of Zoom?
No, we all get a certain level of using Zoom as free part of its base use.
Well, I have a Gmail email address, but I very rarely use it.
You don't need it. You're already using Zoom.
I'm already using Zoom. I went in there to set up a chat with you, and I got lost.
Yeah, on the first screen, you can add a new contact.
Yeah.
And you just use that email. It should put me as a contact.
I clicked on new contact. It didn't do the expected thing. It didn't ask me to add a contact for some odd reason. Not much you can do about that.
What's that boy going?
He's gone to walk the doggies.
What's that going?
She's going to have a shower because she's a dirty little girl. Joel is talking with you, and I was answering him. Colin is keeping quiet. Colin has a little baby granddaughter, you know. I'll show you her picture later, her little video. Well, are we going to talk about something or have a
Possibly.
healthy silence?
What a boy.
Ah,
Papa, you can make pizza.
they're busy, the kitchen's busy. I'll have to wait till the kitchen is unbusy.
Busy kitchen.
Look, that's a can.
Uh-huh.
What is it you've done, Colin, for work through your life?
Somebody stop me.
I don't know. Is he? I think he's just thinking too much to notice what I've just said.
I just got a message. Casey wants to get this thing going. Yeah. Seems like she's trying to find somebody who can use the brain software, or wants me to make a duplicate, or I don't know. Interesting. She's definitely trying to get busy. I think she's been here quite a while. And the GCC, it spawned off. Can you hear me well? I don't know. My microphone's been okay. The GCC's spawned off a few little subgroups where people want to constrain the focus some more, I guess. It's a good way to say, without putting constraints on other people, because it's very general here. And that kind of didn't go so well. That was called the Practical Knowledge Ecology, PKE. And I got a lot of good mapping done in there of different profiles. Just trying to figure out who is who and what's going on. Same as I did when I came here. And anyway, so yeah, so maybe this was, I know she's eager, so this will definitely help her get going. I know I talked with her about a questioning game that I was very interested in, because she does political stuff on Facebook, and she basically asks questions and then gets feedback. But she's thought, you know, I've talked to her and she's had different ways of thinking about how to do that really well. As far as trying to get a game wrapped around it or something. So, you know, that's a lot of the interaction I've had with Stacy, and I've mentioned to her about my ideas of the journey map and how you iteratively go around and get experience at whatever level you're at with whatever mentors are available, building up your knowledge repository, like you were mentioning. Do people actually have the knowledge, and how do you share knowledge? And so anyway, it kind of facilitates that. And then also there's like a second section in the journey where when it gets more serious and you're into a situation, like I guess you could call it, for Sam, you call it the COI engagement. So once you actually start to engage, then you get into more serious conversations. You're kind of ready to, you know, you're getting ready all the time, but once you've reached a certain level, you go on to level 2, certain, you know, competency, you go on to level 2. And in level 2, that's where you get into the many different kinds of conversations, discussions and debates, and depending on what you're doing. That was a lot of information from John Kelvin in the conversation community. You know, he's got a lot of gems of ways of trying to think things through. And then, and the hopes is to have a level 3 where you have a tight alignment, where, you know, you're getting feedback and things are working and you actually understand each other. So you've got some experience and some progress, and you're going to kind of go on, because I guess level 2 would be a prototype stage, and level 3 would be more of a, it seems to be working stage. And in each one of those stages, you have to tighten up the focus and context and yeah, so I think whole idea of the journey map is to give people a little bit of context. They can say, well, in this discussion, I really don't know a whole lot about it. I have no experience in it, but I know I'm very interested in it. So you decide right at the beginning, at the totem pole, after you've gone through the spiritual needs and you're in a healthy position, then you can go on to see what this is going to cost you to be involved. And, you know, Sam had a high cost in some regards to be involved. So he's like at a level 3. So you got to go through those initial stages, you know, and I think that's where you could have almost like a map for every interest that you're involved in. Learning music, right? Being a painter, that's a different thing. You know, learning software, or yeah. So, and you'd have different mentors. So why jam everything in one journey when you have several journeys? Anyway, that was the idea, just to contextualize so that people weren't using a broad brush and being too general while we're still very abstract in the beginning stages of what is going on. It never really took off. But it takes a lot of effort to put into it. You know, I could have easily done a little video and explained that, but again, I think the number one constraint here for me is the amount of time I can put into it. And I think, you know, Sam's COI is looking for some micro agreements, or so that he can align, as Stacy mentioned today, she wants to align with certain people so that you can invest more time into it to get your value out of it. Otherwise, you know, I've made the mistake of trying to get to level 2 with some people before they're ready, or maybe I'm ready, and it's not very comfortable, and it ends in a lot of confusion. So I think there, you know, you do have to go slow, but you have to be methodological about, in some logical way, about what you're doing, whether it's talking about the best how to paint, you know, whatever the journey is, there is a pattern of knowledge. My internet is now unstable, and I think I'll be quiet and let anybody comment on that or change the topic.
But what have you what have you done for work? What's your main knowledge in?
In software.
Software?
Yeah.
What type?
Various types, Microsoft, and web tools as well.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and
so developing coding.
Yeah. Been doing it for over 25 years. Started with C++, right?
Yes.
So anyway, yeah, but here it's more of the other side of the fence, like not using the engineering. Although I do think the agile method is useful, and my journey map kind of rhymes with agile practices, as does Sam's types of presentations, you know. But you know, it is that way of the balance between being in a public space where people have different interests, and you have to I guess what Sam was saying earlier today, you know, focus is definitely very important, and it's a pet peeve of a lot of people. I don't know how many times I've heard Jazz say, you know, we're going in circles.
There seems to be a lot of going around the meaning of words. Has Colin paused? Looks like Colin's frozen. Colin's frozen.
Yeah, he's frozen. Huh?
Gotta love the amusement of existence. It likes to pause people in just the right place. Oh, now he's gone.
I'll be back in half a minute, Joel.
Okay,
Sorry about that.
it's all good. I'm gonna go for half a minute then.
Just getting there. Move along quickly. Oh, yeah.
I get looked at as I'm crazy when I do all that.
Who's crazy?
Me, apparently. I think my neighbors think I'm crazy.
When you do what?
When I sing, when I vocalize, just to vocalize.
It's not just your neighbors. Most people, when you, anywhere you are or anywhere I am, if you vocalize anything out of the blue, you will get a look that says, you're not supposed to do that. You're not a singer. And then they will pay umpteen amounts of money to go and see somebody even sing badly, really. They might even sit in and watch the Eurovision Song Contest. Have you ever watched the It's a matter of lack of information that has not been supplied to the pupils. These young girls are growing up, and nobody except me, and that's my middle name, nobody, is telling them that they are allowed to do these things anywhere and everywhere. And the voice is our own tune, our own crystal that sets off one of our frequencies. That's what an individuality is. Your voice is unique, that anybody anywhere will recognize as you, just as your face is. The items which are unique to us, we ignore. The items which are not unique to us but make money for other people, we tend to believe, yeah, that pair of Wranglers, that's really me. I'm a Wrangler. I've got to have a pair of boots to go with these jeans to make me look like the Virginian. Did you ever watch the Virginian?
No.
Oh, well, you didn't miss much. It was kind of like, if I remember correctly, it was programs like the Virginian, the Westerners, Western programs. The good guys were the white guys and the bad guys were the Indians, gave way to the cop shows, and at the same time you had this sort of futuristic programs like where the Enterprise goes where no man has gone before.
Star Trek.
Star Trek! Yeah, and the same sort of stuff goes on in that, because we are the Enterprise and we're the good guys. So whatever we meet has to have something wrong with it. We never question our own system. This is the point you made today with the Americas. and actually all of the conquering people who weren't conquering to start with, they never questioned themselves once they became the conquerors. Once they got the upper hand, might was right, and it's still so. So yes, we have to tune our own body. And one of the things we can use and must use is our own voice. If you put your hands up there and you go through the vocals, oh, somewhere along the line, if you're sufficiently relaxed, you can feel where that vibration is hitting and tune the voice to your own body. And that's the thing I wanted to talk to you about yesterday, and I couldn't because there were too many people listening.
Can we stop and start recording?
Okay.
Because this is, I just got out of the shower. I don't want to go on camera, but Jazz Winder, this
How
is,
do we know you just got out of the shower?
you'll have to take my word for it. But here's my point. I would really like to hear this. And as a matter of fact, what I do want to ask you at some point is if you would spend maybe in a private recording, because I do want to share.
You missed a couple of words in the middle there.
Say it again?
You would like to ask me to send something to you. I missed that bit.
No, I would like to ask you to put aside a 15-minute block of time for me so that I can share things with you, and that's basically it. As part of my process, it would be helpful for me if you would spend 15 minutes with me. But for right now,
oh, you've devastated my Deva. I was hoping you would say something like, I've got a glass of wine and I'll just slip into something comfortable.
Okay, I'm not interested in that band, but I am interested in what you want to share with Joel. So I just want to let you know I'm in the background listening and I'm very interested. I'm going to go on mute because I will probably be making some sounds in what you're doing, and I'd rather not be on camera.
Are you recording this?
It never stopped recording. So first I have to stop the recording, which I don't think I can do because I'm not host anymore. Please.
Well, who's host?
It looks like Sam is still host.
Oh, I'm glad you told me.
Yeah, I have no way to stop it or start it.
Well, that kind of stops the conversation because this conversation is not for everybody. Because if it was for everybody, I would have said it yesterday.
All right, let me see if I
You can hear it as long as you can.
But it's still it's being recorded, but it hasn't stopped recording since our call. So let me see if I could text. Let me just get my phone back up, and I will ask Sam if he can stop and restart.
It's probably, yeah.
If he's around, he will. Sam.
Sam, are you there, Sam? We need the recording restarted, Sam.
Yeah, but I don't want this particular session. I don't want anybody to hear apart from the three of us.
Then we can just get, well, but you know what? I still would want to tape it and keep it private. And I know that I feel.
Keep it private, but it's not for everybody.
I get it. But maybe one day somebody gets to a level where